You are watching the Fayetteville Government Channel. Up next, full coverage of the latest meeting of the Environmental Action Committee. The Environmental Action Committee is composed of citizen volunteers and meets on the second Thursday of each month. The committee advises the City Council regarding environmental issues facing the City of Fayetteville and its residents. And now, the Environmental Action Committee.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. And let's see, I have our agenda up here on the screen. So this is the Environmental Action Committee meeting for January 10th, 2013. Thank you everyone for coming. Let's go around and do a little quick introductions. I'll start. Peter Nierengarten, I'm the staff representative assigned to the city's Environmental Action Committee, and I'm also the Director of Sustainability and Strategic Planning in the City of Fayetteville.
My name is Terry Lane, and as far as my work on the committee, I head up the Community Wildlife Habitat Project, our community certification. And I work for the Northwest Arkansas Land Trust in conservation.
And I'm Aubrey Shepard from Ward 1, and this year I'm chairman of the Sierra Club and hoping everybody gets their ballot to vote on new members of the executive committee. And then if you get on that, you get to vote for a new chairman at the next meeting. This is Sarah Marsh, who is our new council member from Ward 1. We're very proud of her.
Yes, I am a sustainability consultant in my professional world, and I'm really excited to be here and what you guys are doing.
I'm Richard Russell, also Ward 1, a geologist resource and longtime Fayetteville resident.
Mike Emery's first meeting here. Ward 4, most of my background is military and media, so I'm going to be learning a lot here too. So.
How do you spell your last name?
E-M-E-R-Y, just like Emery Ward.
I'm Dana Smith, and on the committee I'm a member at large. Professionally, I'm the sustainability coordinator for Fayetteville School District.
I'm Sarah Reed. I'm the city's stormwater engineer.
All right, thank you very much. Second order of business on the agenda is certificates for our newest members on the Environmental Action Committee. I have, I'll go ahead and read what the certificates say. So this one is for Sarah Marsh. Was duly appointed by the City of Fayetteville City Council, State of Arkansas, in name and by authority of the people of the City of Fayetteville, vested in the Fayetteville City Council and in the laws and policies of the City of Fayetteville, do hereby commission and the aforenamed as a member of the City of Fayetteville Environmental Action Committee. So I have a certificate for Sarah.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And I have another certificate for Mr. Emery.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So because this is first meeting for two new members, and as a result of some of the discussion we had at, I think it was probably our last two meetings, correct me if I'm wrong, Aubrey, related to some stormwater and water quality questions that the group had. I invited Sarah Reed to come and talk to us about the history of the Streamside Protection Ordinance, and then talk about other water quality related rules in the City of Fayetteville and the State of Arkansas as a whole. This is both informative and educational, I think, for new members and existing members. So I'm going to turn the bill over to Sarah. You certainly can.
Yeah, so my goal is just to not bore you guys, but help you guys to understand, what things the city has, related to stormwater. And so, feel free to ask me questions, or feel free to tell me to move on, or whatever you want to tell me. This is open discussion. So, these are the four kind of water quality related areas that I'm planning to talk about. So the city's Streamside Protection Ordinance, we adopted that in April of 2011, and if if you're looking for it, it's in the floodplain code, which is in chapter 168. It's hidden as a chapter, not meant to be hidden, but I think sometimes people have trouble finding it in the floodplain ordinance. So what that ordinance really, just kind of summarize it, it applies to streams that drain at least 100 acres. And so that's what this map is showing streams it applies to. And then as far as how far out it expands, it is measured from the top of bank as an on-site measurement, and then 25 feet out waterside zone, 20 feet out management zone. And
Wait, can
then
you go back for just a second?
Sure.
Sorry.
So there's different rules that apply to those two zones?
You
Is
explain
that,
for people that may not know exactly, and I'm refreshing my memory too, the top of bank and.
so you would identify the top of bank, which is where you have a slope change from I mean, sometimes it's clear cut, you've got a steep stream but it can be hard to identify the top of bank. Basically, the person applying the streamside ordinance is identifying the top of bank. If somebody submits a development plan, then they would identify it on their plan that they submit. And if there's any question, we might go on site and verify. But generally, like the applicant identifies it. Measures 25 and 50
And
feet.
then the
up
water
from that.
side zone and the management zone. It's the,
I'll go into those a little bit. These are just things that are prohibited in both zones. Bolded the ones that kind of are more often to come up, like grading, parking lots, in-ground pools, building. Also clearing non-invasive woody vegetation. So if it's alive and it's non-invasive, you're not supposed to get rid of it. Okay, then waterside zone, there's really not a lot allowed in that. It's, passive recreation, a stream restoration if it's approved. It's very restrictive. The second zone has things that are allowed, and then we say they're allowed with BMPs. So this is the BMP manual, and it lists, like for all these things listed here, it'll say, if you're going to manage your lawn, this is how you need to do it. If you're going to put a paved trail in the management zone, this is how you need to do it.
so the streamside zone was the upper zone or the lower zone?
The waterside zone's the lower zone. The management zone's the upper zone.
Okay.
I guess the stream side's all of it.
Okay.
And then any existing use that a property owner had at the time of the adoption of the ordinance is grandfathered in. And so if they were mowing up to the stream bank, even though it's not a good practice, it's still allowed because that's what they were doing before. So however they were using that area, it's
Do
allowed.
those rights at all change if there's a change of property ownership?
It doesn't change with a property ownership change. With a lot of, there are people, there are properties where the whole backyard might be in that zone.
Right.
So, that would convey.
So that grandfather stays in no matter, like 3 or 4 families later move in,
Mhm.
they
Would
still
it,
have
would
that
it
there.
change if there was a change in use of the property, like a development went in?
Most likely.
Okay.
And isn't it if they quit doing the activity for 6 months or something, then it's no longer like cattle,
Right.
say, or.
Yeah, it's specific about agriculture. If the ag activity ceases for, I think, 18 months.
Oh, okay.
Then they wouldn't be able to continue that. So, let's see. Redevelopment, say a building or a house is in the streamside zone, it can be redeveloped on the existing footprint. And these type of measures are what came out, basically from the standpoint of the property owner trying not to lose the use and the value of the property. And there is a sunset exemption. They are expired except for the ones for under half an acre, which means that you can, build on that half acre or less. until April this year, without making sure your structure's outside of the streamside zones. So that's the streamside ordinance. And then I was going to talk a little bit about the city's MS4 permit, which stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. And that's the regulations that come from the EPA through the Clean Water Act, and the EPA passes them down to ADQ, and ADQ is designated the city as a phase 2 small MS4. The university and the highway department have their own stormwater permit with ADQ. So city often does maybe get a call about a stormwater violation that might be going on at the university or with the highway department, and we just pass them along to those entities. It's within their jurisdiction.
So that came up at our last meeting, discussion about poor erosion control practices, I think, on a highway department project. And so what I'm hearing you tell us is that the city doesn't really have any authority over work the highway department is doing, or a contractor working for the highway department is doing.
If we have, sometimes these projects sort of have some kind of jointness about them, or
Okay.
it could be that the city is moving utilities for
Okay.
the highways project.
Uh-huh.
But in general, it is the highway department's permit.
So the highway
Through
department's
ADQ.
contractor is violating the highway department's permit, not the city's permit. And
Right.
the only people that really have teeth to enforce
Is the
improving
highway department.
erosion control practices is the highway department.
Right. But if you see something, we're happy to, we communicate with them, so we're happy to pass those along.
I just have a semantics request, and it's kind of silly, but we often call the Highway and Transportation Department the Highway Department. Can we start calling it the Transportation Department to remind them of their obligations
Their broader mission.
for their broader mission for transportation? So that's a personal crusade I'm on, and anyone else would care to join me on that.
Because
I like that.
it's AHTD, Arkansas.
Highway
and Transportation Department.
And it may be confusing because the city we call our, what, typically a streets, public works department, the transportation.
Oh, okay.
So just,
Okay.
that's one
It's
thing
the
to think
Arkansas
about.
Transportation Department.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the city's permit with ADQ, we have 6 measures that we look at: public education and involvement. We contract with the Cooperative Extension Agency to do that, and so they do education for kids and adults and lots of different groups. There's Katie Teague is one of the extension agents, and Jane Magna also. They do lots of education. And then we have illicit discharge detection and elimination. That means that we have a map like this. I use this map all the time. The red, it's like our storm sewer pipes, and it shows the blue is the stream. So everywhere where you can see maybe an open ditch or a storm sewer discharging to the stream, that's an outfall. And we check all the outfalls on a 5-year cycle. So we're checking like 20% of the outfalls every year, looking for things coming out of those, and we check them when it's dry, not raining. So we're looking for evidence or a flow, that indicates that somebody's putting something in there that shouldn't be. And then the other part of this, number 3 measure is that people, also call and just say, hey, I saw, this pipe discharging water from somebody's laundry into the creek. So we would go and check that out and work to get those kind of things eliminated. Or maybe we find a sewer overflow or something.
And Sarah, when you say we, city staff, is who goes and checks that? Is that within your department, or who actually is?
I've had some different groups look at this for me. Usually I have code enforcement look at it. They are very good about taking pictures and documenting. These can be difficult. Like you get a call that, like say somebody used their truck to pump a sewer overflow, and then they took their truck and dumped it into one of our inlets. Well, it's hard to catch them. You know, you basically have to have a photo taken of that, and it's frustrating that we can't.
Unless you see them actually doing it.
Yeah.
By the time you hear about it and get there to go do something, they're already
Yeah.
gone.
So those can be frustrating for that reason. Sometimes if it's, say it's a grease spill from a restaurant or something, we might know where it comes from. And then, you know, most likely we would clean it up and bill them for it and tell them to never do it again. Those kinds of things. And then there's the fourth measure is erosion sediment controls for construction sites. And the city kind of regulates this through our grading permit. And construction sites over an acre also have their own permit through ADQ, you know, called their Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. Do for them. What we require and what ADQ require is about the same. All these things to be on their plan and implemented on site to show how they're not going to prevent any sediment leaving their site. The construction site has its own inspector who, you know, ideally they would notice that the silt fence is half full and say, okay, I've got to remove the sediment and keep all this up to snuff. The city's inspector also comes to the site on a regular basis and would take note of any deficiencies and let the contractor know about that. ADQ does have inspectors, but they're stretched very thin. So their system is that if ADQ gets a call, you know, such and such construction site is tracking mud out onto the street, they contact the city and we try to deal with it, which really works pretty well because many times maybe we've already had the same complaint or already addressed it. If we have something going on that we can't get addressed, then we could go back to ADQ and say, can you help us with this? We just can't get this addressed. Home builders is a big issue. You know, do these rules apply to them? If they're part of a larger common plan, like say they're part of a subdivision with several lots being built on, then ADQ says, yes, you are required to do this stuff too. And our city code actually says that they're required to do it whether they're part of a larger common plan or not. So basically our city code is that every house has to have controls, every house being built has to have these controls in place. A lot of times, if it's a small site, they might be using something like straw wattles, which is those little rolls about that big that they stake to the ground, because the digging to put in a silt fence, you know, might not be appropriate for the scale of the site. And you know, I feel like construction sites have pretty much come up to speed and basically acknowledged, you know, this is here to stay. This is what we're going to be doing. The house, you know, trying to get the houses on board has been more recent. It's still in the process of, I think, trying to get it.
There's probably more home builders that need to be educated than there are larger contractors.
Yeah. And they, you know, there's this element of, I'm building this house, he's building this house, and those guys over there building this house, and who tracked all the dirt onto the street? They did it, you know. So there's that too. I mean, there's complications with it, but I think that in time that they will get on board.
How small does the disturbed area need to be before it basically becomes exempt from
They just
city
need to have
stormwater requirements?
They just need to have a building permit. If they had a site such that no runoff would leave their site, then they wouldn't have to do anything. So it depends on your site logistics.
So there's a house in my neighborhood that's undergoing an extensive remodel and is not employing any temporary erosion sedimentation control measures. Where would I go to report that?
You just call the development services.
Okay.
And you can talk to me, or you can just let somebody up front know.
Okay.
And they can route it.
They'll send an inspector out to take a look, or?
Right, the building inspectors, are you in the hillside?
Yes.
Okay, so then if it's hillside, then there's a public works inspector who sees it.
Okay.
And that you said it's an extensive remodel, so.
Well, there's a lot of site work happening as part of it. So they cleared a lot of trees, they burned them, and then they're putting a new driveway access down a steep slope. And there's no evidence of temporary erosion and sedimentation control.
No permits.
I haven't seen a permit posted either, but it looks like they should have a permit.
Okay, you can give me the address whenever.
Okay.
Fifth thing is post-stormwater, post-construction runoff control. So that's, once a site is built, what's going to stay there to handle the water, and is it going to help water quality? So the detention pond with the concrete channel, basically, it may prevent flooding, but it's not going to do anything to promote water quality. Although there are a couple rocks there at the front, which may slow the water down. As opposed to the other pond has some more, some features where water quality is, could also be helped or, as a benefit. So there's a lot of different things that can be employed to do post-construction water quality elements, such as just maintaining a riparian buffer, urban forestry, grass swales, bioretention, like that bioretention that's in the middle of this parking lot, that's required landscaping space. So they've used it here as a way to help improve water quality too. It's like a dual purpose. And the EPA has a really good menu of stormwater and water quality BMPs. This is another picture of the island in between the parking island being used as bioretention. I think this one's really cool. It looks like the parking lot is probably pervious pavement too, and you can see it doesn't have a curb, so the water just sheet flows into the bioretention area. It's at Heifer International in Little Rock.
Have we had many people actually go to that type of thing in Fayetteville?
Go to that.
Go to a natural garden type creation.
Implement it.
Uh-huh.
We've had some banks implement it on various scales.
Fayetteville High School has it. That new parking lot out front. There's not a continuous curb. It flows into a vegetated area as well.
And that goes down into an underground storage, which is then piped to the stream.
Right. You can see it at the Gully Park parking lot, the newer one that you get to right off of Old Wire. That's on the west side. They have bioretention.
What about street sections? Is there any attempt to incorporate that in new, like subdivision street sections so that it's?
We have an LID street section.
Okay.
And so it would be the option of the developer to use it or not use it.
Are we incentivizing them to use it in any way?
How to incentivize it is difficult. And it's a good discussion to have. So I was going to talk a little bit about our current drainage criteria manual. It doesn't really help with this post-construction runoff control issue. Our manual is about 20 years old, and it requires that you just don't increase the peak runoff from the 2-year, 10-year, 25, 50, 100-year storms. Do you guys know how big the 2-year storm is? That's a 4-inch storm. So that means that everything underneath that, which 85% of your storms are like, this is not exact. I think 85% of storms are an inch or less. So it's not really giving you a benefit for most storms. It's really like extreme flood control. So we are working on updating just need to go to the next slide. We're working on updating our current drainage criteria manual, which is referenced by ordinance, and so it has the same weight as the city ordinance. And we've included a section for low impact development that has a lot of technical information about using low impact development to show a decrease in your overall, the water volume that you're required to capture for your development, which is one effort at incentivizing. You know, if you show that your bioretention basin takes this much water out of your storm that you are going to route to your detention pond, then maybe your detention pond can be just a little bit smaller. But it's, you know, we're not saying that you're going to be able to eliminate your detention pond.
There may also be benefit associated with smaller piping to convey stormwater, so there might be some construction savings associated with that.
Yeah. There are studies that show that, you know, by using an LID section, possibly you can reduce your installation costs. And then I think that there's a lot of discussion on that.
Okay.
Let's see. Another reason we're updating our manual is that in the future EPA is going to be getting stricter with what their water quality standards are, and we want to be ready for them. And then the sixth thing with the MS4 permit is that training for city staff who are in the field about stormwater pollution prevention, and you know, things like looking at our maintenance and storage areas to make sure we're not contributing to stormwater pollution and street sweeping.
Back up real quick to the number 5. So the revisions to the, I guess, the LID manual, the addition of that to the drainage criteria manual. What again is the schedule for that?
We have done one review of the whole manual, sent that back to our consultants, and we'll be getting our final draft back by the end of this month. And then it's a big manual, so staff will have to go through the whole thing and work out any kinks we still could have. And then we'll start with the process of adopting it. And so hoping to come back and give you guys an overview of just the manual, and may take it to other committees. Ultimately take it to city council.
Right. So I think that'll be an opportunity for us to learn more about that particular piece, voice our, hopefully, support for the LID chapter and the overall drainage criteria manual revisions, and pass that on to city council. So Sarah will have that support when she goes for adoption.
I think it has some really good stuff in it. And the city has an agreement with Beaver Water District. The agreement is basically, we discharge our wastewater treatment plant's effluents to the White River, which flows into Beaver Lake. And so we don't have, let's say, the strictest possible limit for how much phosphorus we can release. We generally do meet a very strict limit, but there are days when meeting that limit is very expensive. So, and I don't run a wastewater treatment plant. So in exchange for not having the strictest limit, we did an agreement that the city would do efforts to reduce non-point source pollution. And so that's the part that I'm involved with, is our non-point source reduction efforts. So basically it's Beaver Water District and the city both believe that we can do a lot of good by just reducing phosphorus from across the city as a whole. Over the past 5 years, we've spent $200,000 a year on this plan. We started out with a plan that a consultant did, recommending just a whole slew of ways that we could implement projects and reduce phosphorus. And this is only for anything regulatory we implemented across the city. The streamside ordinance is one thing that came out of that plan. And then anything that's an actual on-the-ground project is in the White River watershed, which would be, south of that red line to the middle of Fayetteville. Related to that project, we developed a low impact development ordinance. We did the LID chapter and the drainage manual, and we've done those PSAs at the Malco theaters with the duckies and the fishbowl. And we've done some stream restoration projects, and we did stream ordinance. One of the stream restoration projects, quite a few of you guys went out to see at Mullins Branch. We did that as a partnership. The funds were from the University of Arkansas and the Arkansas Natural Resource Center in the city, and then the project planning, implementation, and all the work was through Watershed Conservation Resource Center. So I think quite a few of you got to see that site. This is it before, and I apologize, I don't have an after picture. Another stream bank, this one was called a bank stabilization because it was just addressing really this one bank and not both sides of the stream, that the city did also with, it says NRCS, but it's ANRC, and the Watershed Conservation Resource Center is this out at the city's land on the White River. They were losing a lot of their hayfield property from this vertical bank, cut bank, and did a restoration on that. It would be on this side, so it's sloped back now, and it's very natural looking. And then that's another view of that same bank.
That last picture before they did the restoration, that's the example of being able to easily detect the top of bank.
Exactly.
And it's not good.
Yes, and
It's terrible.
this is what happened. In a way, I mean, the city may have, I'm just speculating, but I mean, we did something to contribute to this possibly because there's not trees, it was a hayfield. So anytime you're mowing and just have grass or short grass up to your creek bank, you're gonna lose it.
I'm gonna hold up in a
Yep.
high water event.
Yep. So yeah, no, it's not quite as easy as hold the top
It's
of the bank
amazing
is.
what the difference they can make.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Gully Park has been done like this, and it is so natural. You're gonna have to go out there and look for what they did. And Sweetbriar Park is a more recent one where it'll be more obvious. And there's Miss Formica from WCRC and the mayor out checking it out. I was gonna leave that one out of there. This picture, I talked to a group of students and I put this picture in there, and my point, I think maybe my message is that you need to be very careful if you permit heavy construction in your stream. You want to make sure that your contractor knows what they're doing and that your people that are doing the project are committed to the project. And this turned out to be a couple days of getting in there and moving everything around, and it ended up great. I have lots of skepticism, to permit a project that's going to do work in a stream, and so I guess I would want anybody that does stream restoration to be, properly trained.
That's Sweetbriar, isn't it?
That is,
Yeah.
yep.
That home,
It was fun
right,
to
with
watch.
the chain link fence.
Yeah.
So they were gonna lose, that property owner was gonna lose property. I mean, it was
Mhm.
cutting in so bad right there, and now
Yeah.
it's,
The next thing was he's going to lose his fence.
he loses fence, yeah.
There was a water line crossing the street, or crossing the stream, that had kind of caused a rapid erosion of that bank. Kind of got things out of balance there.
Didn't that flood right after they did it? Yeah, I mean, huge. Yeah.
Yes.
It was 2 springs ago or last
Yeah, it's a
spring?
couple of.
2011.
Yeah.
And we did get some FEMA money to repair that. And repaired that. I am also the city floodplain administrator, so I get many questions from residents and prospective buyers about what are the implications, or what do I do about this letter that FEMA sent me, or that my mortgage company sent me about being in the floodplain. So you ever run into people with questions about that, I answer them all the time. And one of the main things with floodplain is that we require, certain elevation for new structures being built in floodplain. Periodically, I get questions about if people can pump water out of the creek. And so this is some past research.
Pastor put this in here since this discussion came up at our last meeting.
What I found out is that ANRC, Arkansas Natural Resources Commission, does, they handle water rights registration. And this notes from my discussion with them. They said water use is by right. If you own land adjacent to the stream, you can use it. And you're guaranteed your equitable share as long as the person downstream gets their equitable share. If you use more than an acre-foot of water a year, you're supposed to register with them. And they can investigate complaints such as a fish kill or any kind of environmental damage that could possibly be a result of pumping, such as for irrigation in the stream.
This goes in the city limits or out of the city limits.
Mhm.
That's true of just across the board.
Yeah.
So based on what you heard from ANRC, the example we heard from Aubrey was that someone drove up and dropped a hose into a creek at a street crossing and pumped a tanker full of water out of the creek. Can you identify any rule that was violated in that?
Well, if they don't own the property adjacent.
Yeah,
to
this is clearly that it's for a property owner. I really don't know. I don't know of any city code that I would, know that would like specifically prevent that. But it may be a larger. I can't say.
It's certainly an ethical matter, and
Well, didn't you prevent it?
I stopped it.
We got Aubrey.
I only live in one neighborhood at a time.
Is it part of any kind of common law?
I have no idea as far as if you can, I suppose you could apply it to other situations. Like, can you, say you're driving down the road and you see an awesome rock that you want to put in your yard, can you grab it? I don't know. I don't know if it falls into that same category or not.
Certainly in the national forest or many areas, you can't grab a rock and take it out. You're not supposed to take them out the streams or major streams. So, but that's an agricultural description we're looking at.
Yes.
Property owners have a right
Yes,
to
that's
use
where
that.
that came from.
And that's from a different era. And it's not, it shouldn't be an urban rule, because you can quickly drive we're a headwaters city. And so everybody pump water down the stream into their lawn, it would all be used, wouldn't
Well, it
get
seems
back
like-
into the creek very fast.
There's species that need that, if you're altering to me the pools and the this and the that of the structure of the stream, and it would have an effect, you'd think, on a lot of species
But
that
it
live
talks
there.
about use, and the use is a broad term. It doesn't just imply agricultural; it implies
Construction is
habitat.
what this was.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean that's a pretty good example that they didn't own the water, didn't have a right to it. They were just it was there, so it was easy to get. But there is the wildlife resource. That is a use. And so if you're taking so much water out of the creek that the person downstream has their use, which may be wildlife.
Or the fish downstream.
Well, it would be, the fish don't have any rights, the people do. So it would be the people that happen to be adjacent to that part of the stream. They would be having their rights impinged upon, so you couldn't take that much water out. So that's kind of where it's going, but it's not just about agriculture.
Yeah, the specific example I was talking with ANRC about was pumping water to irrigate a golf course. And then there's my contact information if you guys ever have any questions.
So what did you learn in the
Yeah.
discussion about the golf course?
Yes, they can.
Oh, they can do it.
They can pump it
They-
over their lawn.
Now, they said if they use over an acre foot a year, they're supposed to register. And so they may use it much, and they didn't see that entity had registered. But I think that they would seek out a non-registrant on a complaint-driven basis. That's my impression.
Another rule like an acre foot per year,
And how much would that be a day?
well, that would be everything from some of the streams near here, except during the biggest flood of the year. I mean, you'd be taking, they're this deep to that deep, and they have life in them. So if the guy's pumping it out of a stream that averages for the first
Well,
several
that's
miles,
true. It
it's very
doesn't take
shallow.
into account the size of the stream at all,
Yeah.
which would be a big factor.
But then it would trigger the whole part of your impacting the use of the next person downstream if you
Right.
take out that much.
Right. Well, it triggers that you're supposed to register
Register,
as
yeah.
a user.
But registered or not, you're not supposed to take out enough that you
Right.
impinge upon the ability of the people downstream to use the water as well.
Right.
Acre foot is 325,000 gallons of water, so a little bit of water.
That's a year, so.
Nobody in Fayetteville has to register.
Hopefully not.
So it's going to be a pretty big operation if you. Yeah.
So you can summarize what you've told us is that the restrictions on poor stream protection are not very strong. And we knew going in, those of us who were at the meetings screaming, you can't just arbitrarily set 50 feet to protect a stream, especially in a floodplain. You already want to protect the whole floodplain to a high degree. And what we got in that ordinance was not what was talked about. You know, when it first came up, you remember figures of
We
much
made a
wider.
mighty step, I think, towards protecting streams in Fayetteville. This is the only city in Fayetteville that has a riparian buffer ordinance.
The only city in the state.
In the state.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, and the only city in the state, but there are many cities across the nation that have them. So, yeah, it could be
Oh, it's
wider.
a mighty step. I'm proud of it, but every day I can show, you wouldn't want all my phone calls about where I could show you violations of this. And I do put a lot of them online, and they're there for everybody to look at, photos. But I would hope that this committee, after, it'll be going on long after several of us here are gone, just really gone, because it takes time to change the political will of officials and the public in general. And we've got all these wonderful educational materials here, but on habitat and so forth, but getting people to, well, let's go into that discussion.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I don't know what's on the agenda.
I just have one question. In that case where we saw the extreme cut bank setting, do you have to kind of toss your boundaries there where the top of the bank is 5 feet from the, or do you measure vertically? You get what I'm saying? You have, all right, you have zones defined from,
Oh, if you were measuring the
based on
zones.
the top of the bank,
Uh-huh,
correct? So in a setting like you showed on your slide,
uh-huh.
do you have a alternate approach there?
Was the cut bank?
Yeah.
No, it would just be right at the top of it. This is where you would start measuring from.
So 25 feet from the top of the drop off, from the top of the almost squared off
Ledge. But where
ledge.
you
Yeah.
can't stand to where you can stand, right in between there is stop a bank, and then you're just measuring 25 feet, 50 feet from that,
In what direction?
landward.
So water zone is 25 feet and the management zone is another 25 feet. So the whole
Away
buffer
from the
is.
stream, and then it would be on both sides of the stream.
Your other side, though, is harder to define.
Yeah,
It
just
can
like
be
your-
confusing when you've got a stream and you've got a bank, and then the other side maybe has a kind of a floodplain and kind of a gentle.
Yeah, that's
Those
typical.
can be vague.
That's typical geology, stream bank. is-
Those can be vague, and you just have to make a decision on it. But, you know, we talked a lot at the beginning of the development of the ordinance about how to measure this. You know, can you measure from the center line of the stream, and that has issues, and can you go with the high water mark, like what the Corps uses, and, you know, that has different issues. So, One thing I like about this is sometimes if you go to the edge of the bank, then and you've got your measuring tape, you don't really want to go down the bank, so you can stand at the top and you can measure this. So I think that works.
Well, there's this whole difference, Richard, of a natural steep bank, natural cliff, and one that's created by erosion.
Well, the geologist.
Or even graded.
The geologist defines as there's a cut bank and there's a fill bank, and they occur in pairs. They're opposite each other across the perpendicular to the stream flow. So they're always different in that way, and depending on velocity, the differences are great or small.
So often one side is easy to define and the other side is more difficult.
Well, it's like you're turning the water's direction is turning because of something structural, right?
Right.
Like my favorite place is down where Mullins crosses 6th Street. That's a place I'm really interested in. And it has
I've been
Where
working
there's
on
been
that
all that
lately,
erosion
haven't I?
there?
Hmm?
Where there's been all that erosion
Well,
there?
it's easy to visualize because you've got velocity, some velocity, and what does it have to do? It has to change direction.
Yeah.
Right, so it'll take prisoners as it goes.
Yeah, it was one
Whatever
thing.
you put there, it'll probably take.
It was thinking about MLK.
All right, well, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it. You guys have her contact information, so hopefully we learned a little bit about what the rules and requirements are in the city and the state.
If you just sparked an interest or something you want to know more about.
Yeah, feel
Can
free
I
to
ask
contact.
one more question real quick? Just based on last week's conversation, we were talking about with the highway department and streams, and you had said that generally, if there's not an agreement between the city and the highway department, then it falls on the highway department, but you can call the city and then they call the highway department. But what about when, like, for instance, with crossover and where it intersects with, or it's close to Lake Fayetteville, which is city property, then who controls? I mean, then is it still highway?
I would say it's still the highway because it's their construction project and they're working in their right of way.
So since they have right of way on city land,
Right.
then it's highway.
Highway Transportation.
They're the
Highway
owner.
and Transportation Department.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're the
Sorry.
they're the owner of the construction work. So it's their responsibility.
And they have the contract with the contractor, so they have the teeth in terms of where we would hold payment if it comes to that in order to enforce the proper erosion control.
Right. Yeah. So ADQ sets it up to be the permit, the erosion sediment control permit holder is the person who has the money to implement or for them to find. Yes, whoever has the ultimate money control of the project.
So does AD, okay, ADEQ, do they work with the highway department to make sure that everything is environmentally okay? Oh, I thought maybe I learned something like, you're looking at me like, why would I ask that question? I thought maybe they did. I mean, you mentioned them. So it's the highway department.
The highway
Just like we
is-
talked
They
about.
have they filled out a permit and they said
So we have to start using transportation terms.
Oh, I'm sorry, I guess I missed that.
Yeah, you missed that. No,
Okay,
it's just
the
that.
highway and transportation department.
what happened is AHTD filled out a permit that they sent to ADQ saying this is how we will handle erosion and sediment control. And they send that to ADQ and ADQ, if it's a big enough project, reviews it and says okay. And then what they plan to do, may not work, and that's expected to a certain extent that there are field adjustments to be made. So even though they sent the plan in and said this is what we'll do, if it's not good enough, they have to do something better then. It means that you have to make adjustments to improve your erosion sediment controls if they fail.
Who decides that?
The way it's set up, the contractor is supposed to inspect their site, and if it's failed, they are supposed to upgrade it or repair it.
And who fails it? How's it fail?
They would have the first chance to fail it themselves.
Oh, okay.
And then if it's a project within the city's jurisdiction, we have public works inspectors who are on site, and if they say it fails, then they tell the site that they have to repair it. And you know, if they don't repair it, if we have trouble with compliance, then we can go to different measures like holding inspections or even like a stop work kind of thing.
With the Highway and Transportation Department, we can stop work.
No.
No.
I kind of jumped back to
Okay, I'm
city
sorry.
projects where we have more
Oh,
control.
only city projects, okay.
But the highway department would have a similar authority over
Yes.
contractors working for them. Their contractors
For
would have
them.
the first
But if
opportunity
it's-
to repair an issue. If not done on their own, then a highway and transportation department inspector would, is supposed to, you know, tell the contractor to correct whatever deficiencies
Right.
are
I guess
associated with
what
it.
I'm getting to, and you all may have already talked about this, and we talked about it last time we were here too, is does the city really have any say-so in it if they're not happy with it?
With what the highway department's
Yes.
doing.
Can contact ADEQ, huh? Can have them.
Yeah, that would be, if we were trying to work with the highway department and not getting any compliance, you could go to ADQ and ask them to work.
And would
for it.
they?
Yeah,
They wouldn't be able to help with the trees, the tree outrage.
no.
So what would they help with?
Erosion sediment control.
Okay.
So if highway department was not meeting what they said they would do, or if what they said they would do is
not
not working, then AEQ could say, you need to do X, Y, and Z to fix this.
And could they stop the project?
They can fine.
And they can fine,
I'm
okay.
not sure if they can
Just
stop
wondered
the
if there was
project.
teeth in it.
ADEQ has fining
Yes.
authority.
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of teeth they have.
Step back for a minute though, I mean, you know, if you see something that you don't like, you're a citizen of Arkansas. You know, they work for you, you're welcome to make a complaint and start making some phone calls. So you call the highway department and they say, hey, we're doing everything we can and what we're supposed to. So you call ADEQ, okay? And they have a different mandate. Their mandate is protect environment, not build highways and transportation, excuse me.
They're not building transportation,
Right.
that's the problem.
But then when you say to ADEQ, and you can throw the city of Fayetteville in here for that matter too, and you start saying, okay, I want you to go after this other department, well then you have an issue of what really do the people higher up the food chain want to have happen. And so it may be that the ADEQ looks at that project and says, yes, there may be some violations here, but it's not something that we're going to do any good in enforcing. We're going to put our resources elsewhere. And so it may be that, I'll use the governor's office for example. The governor may be saying, we want highways and we're willing to build highways and sacrifice a little bit of environment along the way. So that's kind of where you get into those issues.
Yeah, that's my point
So
too.
you,
yeah.
but the process is, it may not always work the right way, but the process is, if you see people doing things that they're not supposed to, then you need to speak up and ask the authorities to take steps. But, you know, just like you call the police and ask them to do something about a law violation, they don't always do it because, you know, for a lot of reasons, and some of them are good.
I think there have been multiple citizens that have complained about the highway. So, and I guess in part of that is that I don't see where, okay, so Fayetteville is the only city in the state of Arkansas that has a stream ordinance and all that. So Fayetteville has a lot more that they look at environmentally than possibly other places where they build highways. So maybe somebody else is not going to complain about it at all in another place, but in Fayetteville they are. But it seems to me that Fayetteville does not have any recourse in this at all.
Well, you know, there are different jurisdictions, and certainly the state has authority over the municipality in most instances, and so that's kind of the way that works. Certainly, if you start talking about highway projects or transportation projects, excuse me, you know, there's money there, and people want to have roads built. They want to have roads repaired and improved, and so when the money comes in from Little Rock or from, you mentioned FEMA, I think, to make repairs. You know, there's money that comes in that politicians and officials want to have so that they can operate their projects. And so that's part of what goes on with people, or with highway projects. You know,
That's all well and good, but, and then you said be a citizen and if you see things that are not, but yet it seems like the big guy's gonna win out on that.
sometimes it happens.
It does happen. I think, Sarah, I think you did an excellent job for identifying
Oh, I'm sorry.
the protocols and the procedures, and yeah, I think the long and short of it is if we do see what we think are violations, we've got channels that we can go through.
You bet.
Whether or not something always gets done remains to be seen. But at least now we know a little bit more about what the rules that folks are supposed to be playing by are.
Right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Thank you very much,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Well, Connie, if I may, quickly, the Arkansas Highway and Transportation Department is controlled by a commission
Right.
appointed by governors over
Right.
the years.
I know all that.
10 years they get on there. And they're very powerful. So
Yes.
any of those you can get close to and get their ear, then you might change something. But the governor himself is totally political. When he puts people on those commissions like that, they're supposed to be free of it because they usually survive on their past tenure of most governors.
Who represents our area? Is that, or do we
This
have an
year?
area that's represented?
Uvalde Lindsay was up till he's now in the legislature.
No, I meant the highway.
That's what I'm saying, he was on that.
Okay, yeah.
commission.
Isn't there somebody in?
I can't recall now
Okay.
who's got that.
Was that yours?
So we can just put it on.
Sorry. All right, let's shift gears and do a little more history lesson. I think this next little piece is important, especially because we've got new members.
And I have to leave at 6:45.
Leave at 6:45.
This is a
What time is it?
horrible night for me. It's
Okay.
6:30,
All
so
right.
it's a
We'll
hard
do
night
this
for me to be
as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
So just in terms of role and function, I wanted to make sure that everybody remembered and understood that within the city's hierarchy of government, there's an executive branch, which is essentially the mayor, and then there's a legislative branch, which is our city council, and that's the piece of the city government that we fall under. And by our charter or ordinance that created the Environmental Concerns Committee, we were actually created in 1995, I believe, originally. Let's see if I need this to actually open. And then our charter was amended and changed. Technology, there we go. In, I think this was like 2003. Okay. Here's essentially what the purpose, as defined by City Council, of this committee is: to promote and address concerns of the city, to promote safe and a healthy environment, to maintain the natural beauty and environment within the city. And then B is the important part. The Environmental Concerns Committee shall make recommendations to other committees and to the City Council, which is our, as I said, our function in that legislative body, on matters concerning the environment. I just wanted everybody to refresh and understand that. So that was 2003. And
One question on that, can you go back? It says
Yeah.
that there's supposed to be a representative from industry. Who is our local industry representative?
Am I calling it now?
Carrie.
There was one.
Okay, science discipline, just, okay.
Richard,
yeah.
Okay.
Almost everybody, really.
Okay.
And it says 6, and I was counting online. We actually have 8 members at large. I'm not exactly sure why there's a discrepancy there.
I think it's different online. I think isn't there a different ordinance online?
They voted to expand it 3 years ago.
Did they?
Yeah,
Okay, so maybe
because
this
when
is.
I was added, it was actually a decision to myself and somebody else to add 2 spots or something.
Okay. Did that go along with the name change?
It was after that.
Oh, it was after the name change. 'Cause
Mhm.
we were originally the Environmental Concerns Committee.
Right.
And in 2009, the name was changed to the Environmental Action Committee to reflect a more action-oriented organization. All right, related to actions, there was a request for a letter of support by Frank Sharp at our last meeting. And the letter was to be in support of the Mount Kessler Greenways. Originally, Terry drafted up a letter that I modified a little bit. I sent this a little bit different version than this out to you guys earlier this week. And but the important piece is that the letter is addressed to the City Council, our advice to the City Council that we support the Mount Kessler Greenways. The one piece I wanted to clarify in terms of what we put in the letter is what we actually wanted to advise the City Council of. Do we want to, are we asking the City Council for the city to buy the property? Are we asking the City Council to, try and get the university to buy the property? Are we just telling the City Council that we want to support, that we have support for this idea and just advise them of that fact? That was one kind of question that came up when I was talking with some other folks about what this letter actually was supposed to say. And right now it essentially says that we support the Mount Kessler Greenways and the idea for the project, and we're not asking for the city or the university or anyone in particular to purchase it, but just express our support for it, which I think is what Frank wanted us to say.
Yeah, he wants overall support, but he is also, there's a specific proposal that he will be forwarding, that Mount Kessler Greenways Association will forward to the University of Arkansas Board of Trustees and to the City Council. That will, and he's putting together a booklet, and he's got letters from a lot of different groups and organizations. Ours would be one of them that would be in this booklet, and there would be the proposal. And the proposal says, his idea as it is right now, is that, yeah, the city would pitch in on purchasing, jointly collaborating with the University of Arkansas, and also that there would be some public fundraising, which Fayetteville Natural Heritage Association is going to be kind of spearheading. And so these funds would come together to purchase this 387 acres, and that it would then be managed jointly, kind of like, much like the Walton Arts Center, where there's a council that has representatives from cities, from universities, and from the public sector that would come together. So no decision would be made about the property that didn't go through this joint council. So, but that's a good, it's kind of, because you don't see that, you don't have that proposal yet to kind of look at, but that's it in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess our, however vague or not vague we need to be, should be decided, but that would be what we're supporting, this idea of preserving it in that way.
We want it preserved. That's
preserving
what-
it, period, in some way, right, yeah.
In some way.
Whether
Yes.
that pans out or not, I guess, yeah.
So there might be an opportunity, since the specific proposal doesn't exist in terms of, who's paying for what.
Right.
There's nothing for
it's
us
not
to
our-
recommend
Right.
specifically
Yes.
related to that yet, but that may be a future opportunity for us.
Yeah.
So then do I have an actionable item on this at this point?
No, in terms of, passing or trying to get a resolution or an ordinance at city council, no.
Okay.
All you have is essentially a letter that Frank is going to want a copy of to put in his proposal. It's addressed to the city council that says we support this idea for the Mount Kessler.
Well, it's asking if it's the same version that you sent out before, it's asking City Council to recognize this unique opportunity and to collaborate and support the proposed structure for Mount Kessler Reserve. So it is asking City Council to support the proposed structure.
Well, you
Since
asked-
there isn't a structure yet.
No.
Yeah, there hasn't been a structure proposed, so I don't feel like we can support it if we don't have a
Okay.
proposal.
So maybe it should be something more of, to encourage City Council to participate in creating that.
Or protecting. Yeah, proposal, but, or creating that agreement or proposal or participating in that conversation.
Right, exactly, maybe that, right.
So it,
You know, I think we could fix this if we just said to collaborate and support the preservation of a Mount Kessler Reserve.
Yeah,
Because that's what we're trying to do, and
Maybe
that's how they
so.
go about doing
say that
that.
again, to collaborate.
It's in the last paragraph, and it says, "Our committee respectfully encourages you to recognize this unique opportunity and to collaborate and support the preservation of a Mount Kessler Reserve."
Okay. What I've got here actually is a little different than what I sent out to you.
so basically not mention the proposal or the structure of the proposal, but just say,
We like the idea.
we like this idea and
Right.
we encourage further
Yeah,
progress.
discussion,
Yeah.
All right.
Peter, I've got one little tweak, it's nothing really significant, I can show it to you later.
Okay. Are you comfortable?
Do you want me, is this a time sensitive issue? Do you want me to walk this on to the next meeting, or can we wait till the next agenda session?
I think it can wait for
Okay,
the next
to the next agenda
agenda session.
All Frank needs right now is for this group to say that this letter's okay and him to get a copy for his book. And then I think the part where it'll come to, as a packet of info to you guys will be, he'll let us know and we'll say, oh,
Okay.
here it is and here's our letter in it and, you know.
And then I'll
So do we need a proposal for that, or do we need a motion or anything for that?
Just need to move that this is the letter that we want to send after it's our final copy.
Can we
Because
do
this
that once we do that with email? I mean, once we see the final copy?
Or could we move that we approve
With some couple minor tweaks.
with
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Giving
let's do it now, right.
Peter
Yeah,
permission
we
to
trust
tweak
you.
and send?
This would be the most of resolution that you'd have to do with first.
Right, yeah.
It's not
Sure.
the town law.
I guess.
Right.
Because it's
It's not an ordinance, it's a
Sure.
resolution. Okay.
So somebody make that motion?
Somebody
Somebody make that motion?
Somebody second it?
Second.
All right. Am I facilitating this meeting, or are you doing it?
So there's a motion on the table to approve the letter with a couple of minor tweaks to remove the words any words specific to the proposal, since the proposal does not exist, and have our chair Sarah Marsh sign that letter and present it to City Council. All in favor?
Sarah, would you pass that
Opposed?
around to Peter? It's just a-
Okay.
So then, once
Awesome.
the proposal is actually in place, then we might look at doing another letter or going to city council or doing some more active.
Probably would be going to the meeting for sure, because since they will have it in their hands and, you know, to
Could
voice
answer any
further,
Yep.
support.
It's when the discussion about
Yeah, it's the money.
Right.
money will start happening.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what we do.
Okay.
Awesome.
There was a
Forward
news
you
article.
a final version of that,
Okay.
and then if you want to sign it,
I'll sign it.
and you can give it back to me, and as well as take it to City Council, and I can get it to Frank.
Okay.
May I give a brief 1-minute update on the speaker series that we have? So
Might make more
Do you have
sense to do the, do you want me to do the overview of the Habitat Project because the speaker series is part of it? Would that be confusing to talk about the speaker series if we haven't done the
you
overview?
please go first.
Yeah, I have to leave in 4 minutes.
Oh, I know, I
I'm
get
sorry.
that.
Yeah,
This
this is a really
These
bad night
meetings
for
are
me to
always,
meet,
it's like,
and so
you think you can do 4 things?
Yeah,
Terry,
hopefully
pass-
I'll-
Pass that over to
I'll
Steve.
Oh, sorry, Peter.
sort it out my schedule.
Ah, I'm trying to hurry, 4 minutes. Okay, take one down and pass it around to that. And so Peter asked me to talk about the project. It looks like my formatting got all shifted in the.
Of course.
How funny. Okay, hold on. So for those of you who've been on the committee for a while, this is review, refresher. But we have, since we started the Community Wildlife Habitat Project, we have several new members. We have a new sustainability director and we have a new city council chairperson. So just kind of an overview, and then Joe has been helping with the speaker series aspect, and he was going to talk about that. Okay, so the Community Wildlife Habitat Project started in 2010, and this is our booklet, which was submitted to the National Wildlife Federation to get us certified, so that the National Wildlife Federation is the overriding organization that administers this program and certifies communities if they meet a whole bunch of goals, a points matrix. And it takes most communities 2 years, it took us right at 2, to do all the things that are required and put everything into place. And then you document it into a book, which you send to them. They look through it back and forth. And then we celebrated our designation last June, it's in here somewhere. But we were the first city in the state of Arkansas to become certified as a community wildlife habitat, and the 50th or so in the country. So I'll pass this around. You can kind of leaf through it while I'm talking. It kind of gives a lot of information. But okay, National Wildlife Federation, I just mentioned that. They support communities, also individual homes. And so this is one of the signs that if a property in the community becomes a certified wildlife habitat, and I'll tell you what that takes in a second, you get one of their signs. This program has been around for individual homes to get certified with National Wildlife Federation for a lot of years. You know this organization because they're the Ranger Rick. You know, if you remember Ranger Rick from the 70s, which they're still doing. So this is one of their outreach efforts, and then they expanded it to offer this community certification. The goal for our group for doing this in Fayetteville was to educate and inspire Fayetteville residents to provide for our native wildlife populations. And you know, Peter reminded us that we are to address environmental concerns and promote health and safety and to maintain the natural beauty of our community. And there are a lot of offshoot benefits that come from this program that really address all of those items, and I'll kind of go into that in a sec. Well, here they are. So this was kind of how we pitched it, and believe that this program, not only are we caring for wildlife, but in the process of developing these types of landscapes in our community and ensuring that green space is linked, habitat corridors are created, we're improving quality of life and water quality and air quality, preserving our natural heritage, certainly. It ties in nicely with our Enduring Green Network efforts and our, even what Sarah was sitting here talking about, these bioretention areas, tie in with creating habitat, the use of native plants, and the getting rid of invasive plants. That's all part of this project. And really what we're looking at, and I won't go through all of these because this is a much longer program set of slides than we have time for, but just that developing communities have kind of become accustomed to these sterile landscapes. You know, it's foreign grass and some foreign tree, and that's kind of the old paradigm, and we're really working toward, through this program, kind of shifting that paradigm, that your yard is not an isolated square patch of grass, that it's actually it's a piece of a much larger puzzle. Everybody's yard is part of a greater ecosystem. And there are some things that you can do that can help support that greater ecosystem right there on your own half acre, you know, or whatever it is. You need to go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You. That's okay.
I'm familiar with this program though.
Good, very good. And so we start using terms like ecosystem gardening and wildscaping instead of landscaping, and we work at the schools and do community outreach presentations. I'm going to skip over some of this that I use in larger time frames. So to become certified as a community, we had to address a certain number of education goals. Community projects such as invasive plant removals, developing the demonstration garden, which we did at Butterfield Trail Elementary School. We had to meet certain administrative goals. Lots of reporting and conference calling and things like that went on for a couple of years to meet those goals. And then we had to get based on the population of our city, we had to get a certain number of homes to sign on. And that number for our city was 200. And then in addition, we had to get a certain number of schools, public spaces, businesses, I think that's it, and then homes to sign on and say, oh, okay, we'll put these things into place and become a certified piece of property. And the requirements are for any property, and whether it's, like I said, a tiny yard to acres and acres of the wastewater treatment plant, which we have certified. Each piece of property needs to provide food sources, water, cover, and places to raise young. That's the criteria that National Wildlife looks at. So for food, if you have, an oak tree, it provides acorns. That's a huge food source for our native wildlife. So you can count that as a food source in your yard. Redbud tree. I mean, a lot of our native trees, of course, all of them provide some food source. Flowers that provide nectar. And then certainly supplemental feeders. A lot of people like to put feeders out and they can view the birds better and that kind of thing. So water sources, a bird bath. Most of our homeowners would say, well, gotta go buy a bird bath. I've got everything else, just by nature of the property they lived on, but they didn't have the water source, so they go and get the bird bath and check that box. So you have to have so many sources of food, one source of water, several sources of cover, and again, examples, once you start looking at your yard, you think, well, we've got some thick hedges here that critters can hide in bad weather, or we've got nest boxes up, or we've got an old tree with a dead branch that can provide a nesting spot. It's really fun to go around and kind of take inventory of your property. And I know for me, we lived in our house for years, and I didn't know the name of a lot of the trees and plants on my own, in my own yard. And through this project, I went around with a notebook. If I didn't know it, I got the book out, I looked it up, like, oh, that's interesting. We have one of those. And then you also start getting obsessed with what you want to plant. Oh, I forgot I had this broken down here. So you have to have at least 3 sources of food. So native plants, we call them feeders with roots. That's a big part of what we support when we go around talking about this project. Get rid of the alien plants and replace them with the native plants, and then feeders. Water, at least one source. There's lots of ways to do this. I encourage people to put a ground source because not all of your yard critters can get up to the top of a bird bath, so it's good to have, you can put a plant saucer on the ground. At least 2 sources for cover. A log pile, a rock pile, thick hedges, lots of things count for this. At least 2 places to raise young. For butterflies, that's milkweed, so you kind of think out of the box a little bit on that. And then we also, this wasn't one of the criteria, but sustainable landscaping, it used to be, and they took it off, but I still talk about it when I do presentations about reducing your lawn space. That means less mowing, reducing your chemical usage, getting a rain barrel, giving them a place to go to church. This is at the botanical garden. It's not a requirement that you give them a house of worship. This is a bathhouse. I just think that's super cool. Okay, so we kicked off with the Paul Nolan wastewater treatment plant because they were CH2M Hill that runs our wastewater treatment plants have been doing a lot of sustainability work globally and certainly in our city for a long, long time. And they quickly were very interested in this project, and they have a kind of a prairie restoration going on. And they had already been doing habitat enhancement work around the plant. And so we got them certified. That counted as one of our businesses, and had a media day out there, and the mayor spoke, and it had a front page right up in the paper. It was fantastic. That was kind of our kickoff. And as far as our public spaces go, we Parks and Recreation Department was immediately on board and identified 24 of our city parks and trails that they certified, and you'll see these signs tucked around different places at our parks.
And that brings up what happened to that one?
I had it with a group of kids that I was talking with, and one of the boys decided it'd be fun to see it then,
It did.
And it did. And they want to go back. Oh, here's our parks and trails. that the list of all the ones that we have certified. And then schoolyard habitats. This has been a really fun and important part of this project, and Dana and Connie have been huge in making this happen, and also Cindy Cope, who's shown in that picture, talking to kids about butterflies. She's showing them a chrysalis. So every school that we got certified, and I'm not sure my list is totally accurate.
More than that.
There's more than that. This was older. We have a few more schools, but for each one of them, we gave them a habitat kit. And so that Rubbermaid tub with all the different goodies in there, we bought them good magnifying glasses, because a lot of times the schools have those little plastic ones and they're all scratched up and they don't really do anything. We got them like a set of good magnifying glasses, bird feeders, books, a curriculum guide, all kind of stuff. So we would do a presentation at their assembly and say, hey, you know, kids, your school is a certified habitat. Here's your habitat kit. We talked to the teachers and the principal. And the challenge now is kind of to keep going back at it and reminding them that they're a certified school and that teachers can use it as an outdoor classroom. So, but this has been a good part of it. This is Butterfield Trail Elementary School, where we did the demonstration habitat garden. This is what it looked like before. My daughters go to school here. When my oldest was a kindergartner a couple of years ago, I kept walking by this space and it was just driving me nuts, because they were trying to do a garden club out there. So those, you can see the little raised beds out in the baking sun. You couldn't keep enough water on them. And it was just hard clay. So when they renovated this school, it's a LEED building, it's a great school, but they left this little central area unlandscaped. They were gonna just put grass on it, but they never even did that, thank goodness, actually. And the principal told me, go for it, do what you want. And so we did. We got a bunch of community partners together, and we've had, I don't know, we've had now like 12 work days out there over the past few years, couple of years. But we started off bringing in compost, running tillers, trying to get it to be some sort of soil we could even plant in. We did pea gravel walkways. We were doing kind of a living fence out of shrubs to provide that cover. And then we've got lots of pollinator beds. And it looks even better than that now. It's really grown up, you know, year 2, year 3, bunch of perennials that come up. So, okay, this is taking too long. Let's see, cats, leave your cats in, forget that. So, you like how I just skimmed over it?
Skim over the cat.
Trying to get this done. Okay, so what I was going to pass around to you and that we need to discuss is, well, I have lots of goodies here about native plants. This is the Ozark Friendly Landscape. This is Arkansas History Told Through Native Plants. And this is one that I helped Cindy do on wildscaping with Ozark native plants. There are plant lists in here, and it shows you what the plant is, what the conditions are it likes, and what it does for wildlife. So these are awesome, and everybody can get one of those. Annual goals. So we're already certified, but to stay certified as a community, we have a list of annual goals. Take one of those and pass it around. Actually, give me one of them before you do. I'll keep talking. And our report is going to come due here in, I don't know, 2 or 3 months or so. So we get a certain number of points for each thing that we do. We need to get another article in the newspaper every time we do community outreach presentations, and Dana's going to do one for us to a garden club in February, so that will count. We'll get points for that. Whenever I get with Richard and do the neighborhood council, that'll count. This counts. So every time we talk about it to a group, we get points, and I'll let you kind of read that list because we don't have time to go through each one of them. But one of the things on that list is through community outreach, we started this speaker project where last year we were at the Fayetteville Public Library. We did a series of 5 speakers, all talking about a different subject related to habitat. And Joe has been helping me. I kind of said, help, will you do this? And he said yes. And so he's been contacting our speaker and setting up our place. So you want to tell them where we're at?
So Terry's been doing most of it, actually. I contacted our 2 speakers. Mitchell Pruitt is a freshman at the U of A, and he went on a big year when he was 16, which, for those of you who don't know, is an insane bird watching experience, especially for a teenager in Arkansas, to list and map and chart and look at the natural progression of Arkansas native birds. And I looked at it and learned more about it. It's phenomenal. But our second speaker is going to be Joe Neal, who I don't know if he's still a University of Arkansas biology professor.
He's retired recently, yeah.
But I was still able to contact him through his UARC, so I know that he's active and he's involved heavily in the community, especially with our wildlife efforts. And they're both going to speak. They've agreed to speak, and Mitchell is going to get back to me on exactly what day they like to do that on Tuesday. So when the semester starts, he can look at his tests and stuff like that, because it's going to be, I think, a long semester for him. But it's going to be a Monday before March and not the 18th of February. It will be in Giffords Auditorium, and both speakers have agreed. So if anyone has something they know they won't be available for on a Monday, if you could shoot Terry and I an email, that'd be great, just so we know before we agree that we could have a sizable sum of EAC members there, because it will be on campus, and we're aiming this event at students.
Yeah, it's kind of different this year because the last time we did it was Fayetteville Public Library. It is still going to be free and open to the public, and it will be promoted as such. But having it at Giffords, hoping and using, you know, retired U of A professor and a student as speakers, that a lot of times when those events happen, the students come and they get extra credit if they come and write a little page about it. But it's a good way to reach a different audience about what's going on in the city as far as habitat. Yeah.
There's a lot of UA groups who are very interested in stuff like this too. A lot of RSOs. So
it'll be on Monday?
On Monday, yes.
Okay. During the day, most likely?
Actually, we
evening. Probably, I think last time we did 6 to 7:30 was our time frame.
That's what I told them too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
You just said a Monday before March?
He's waiting to hear back from the speakers, yeah. And then maybe we can.
Not the
18th, because I'm not here. And then one other thing I wanted to say that we can get points for this, and I think it's a neat thing to continue that Aubrey started, was giving the habitat. He did kind of a habitat award, spearheaded that, right, for Pinnacle Foods. Partly as just kind of encouraging good things to keep happen, but it's also a good awareness thing. And I got to thinking about that, and I wanted to ask this group: would we want to give a community wildlife habitat award each year, and we would pick either a business or a school, or I mean, it could be anything, any of our certified habitats that are kind of taking that extra step. And I have a nominee for this one, and that is the Paul Nolan Wastewater Treatment Facility, where I showed the picture that we had the kickoff. They've just continued to be interested and available, and to keep doing things out there to kind of restore that prairie, and working with other groups. With Arkansas Master Naturalists, they let us come out and do a brush pile habitat shelter day, and just a lot of neat things. But is that something that we could do? And you know, it would be certainly positive publicity for the person who got the award, but it would also be a way to get just the Habitat Project in the paper and out there as well. Like the mayor could come, we could do a certificate.
So the idea is one award winner
Or whatever.
per year?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
Could be
thinking.
one industry type and one private facility or something.
And how would the, so there's an online application you do to get certified.
Yeah.
And there would be another subsequent application you would do.
I don't know, I thought maybe
nominated
just if
for
we
the
just
award.
knew about them. I guess we
could have people given the opportunity to nominate if they wanted
Nominate,
to.
a nomination process,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Or we
Sort of
can
a-
nominate.
Yeah.
a press release maybe associated with
Yeah.
that. Do we have an email list associated with everybody who's
certified. We have physical addresses for everybody who's certified. We do not have National Wildlife Federation tracks that. That's another thing to know. And here's your application. So if you don't have your yard done yet, I brought the hard copies instead of the email. Just to show you real quick. It has information. When you rip this off, fill it out, send it in. People ask all the time, if I certified my yard, how will Fayetteville know? How will you know so you can count my property? Well, National Wildlife Federation tracks those by zip code. So whether you apply online or you do the hard copy, they'll look at your zip code and they'll automatically credit the city of Fayetteville for that new certified yard school business. And so they don't have to do any special alert. And take a couple of those if you know someone else that would like to sign up. It is a $20 processing fee for the application, but with that you get a membership to National Wildlife Federation and you get a year's subscription to National Wildlife Magazine, which is a $15 value anyway. And the money goes toward a great conservation group. So, but it is $20 to sign up, and we will automatically be credited. But they do not capture email addresses. They send me a list every month of new signups, and I can request the whole list anytime. But it just has the name and the type of property. It does, and the address. It doesn't have email.
Can't we put that on the city website or something?
Yeah.
Some way where you get somehow.
Make that revolving thing on the front page.
Yeah, I'm not sure what would be the best way to get that word out. I wondered, like you were saying, it might not just be a bad idea to have knowledge of what projects are out there within this group.
Yeah.
We could do it that
And
way.
then make nominations within this group.
It would be a lot
Decision.
administratively a lot easier.
Yeah, probably would be, at least in the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
I think,
Well, if it's something we're interested in doing, I could work with Peter a little bit more on what it would look like. You know, just get a certificate.
Would we want to set some like protocols and standards, what they would have to meet to get this?
You know,
Kind of a government yard.
I've been involved with a different type of group that would recognize people periodically, and it was fairly informal, and it was pretty easy to administer because of that. You said, hey, this person needs to be recognized, have a discussion, and then say, okay, yes or no, not yet. There's someone else that would rather put in there, and you start putting criteria in and making administration protocols, and before you know it, you've got someone that you want to recognize, and then you say, well, they don't fit.
Yeah.
you've already got, I mean, they already got to go through criteria
Yeah, right.
in the program in the beginning.
Question though, but yeah, I guess I was thinking of it more in the spirit of just we know and maybe we don't have somebody 1 year. You know, I mean, we'll have to force it, but just if we know of somebody that needs to be recognized, which I feel that way about them, but that we can do so.
Well, the hardest part, like some of these, I mean, it's the education that people be interested in. As you say, we should have points every time this committee discusses it, it's on television. But the fact is, you got to get out and meet some of these people.
Talk about it.
Maybe not the guy that's doing the mowing in front of the factory that's clearly on a giant piece of prairie, but the boss, and tell him the benefits. And he can put that man to work doing something besides mowing every other week or whatever they do. Try to disguise prairies as wasteland.
All right, do we want to make a motion to create an award for an outstanding
Certified habitat.
Before we go that route, I suggest that we make a motion periodically to recognize someone instead of having, you know, a formal process. Because if we just, someone said, hey, this is a person that needs to be recognized, or a business or what have you, then we could make that motion, and that would be much more specific.
And potentially you could do that every month or.
Yeah.
As a case
Good
goes
as
on.
I mean,
Keep it special though, you know.
Well, no, you wouldn't have to do it.
My reason for doing that is,
I agree.
you know, I think a lot of times you need to kind of work your way into a program, and this looks to me like a program that is very good, but we probably, before we need to just say tonight, okay, here's how it's going to look, maybe we should, you know, have a few examples to pattern it off of.
So the converse would be a motion to present an award to the Nolan Wastewater Treatment Facility for their exemplary wildlife.
To make that motion.
Actually, hasn't that been done a lot?
What,
The
them?
Nolan plant. Yeah, it's been touted on the government channel over and over again, so I'm thinking.
For various
We've had
sustainability efforts.
on that part too.
They haven't, they don't have something hang on their wall that says, you know, they've done above and beyond for creating habitat for wildlife.
Plus, this gives us a great first step. So we can say, well, I mean, the Nolan organization isn't going to be every single award that we give, but we can say, hey, well, this is a great way they are going to end up like this, or they've exceeded these expectations. So.
And Nolan, I guess you're right, they weren't under a mandate to create any habitat to replace, wetland and destroy. West Side plan, that was a requirement that they create replacement wetland actually, so that's why we have Woolsey Wet Prairie.
The staff, they're CH2M Hill engineering firm, and they're contracted to manage our wastewater treatment plant. So when I say the Paul Nolan people, it's the CH2M Hill people, but their staff just got interested in this actually, but before we ever came up with the idea for habitat certification. And they started doing things like recognizing that when they didn't need so many lights on the building, on the facility, and so they did some experiments and saw how many of those could they maintain safety but still turn off some at night. And then the bats then they started seeing the bats coming around a little better and other things. And they've got a little drainage area that they've done. They had already done some riparian replanting of some native stuff, and they keep a species list. Just because when their guys and gals are out on the property and they see a fox run across that field, they are writing it down, or a certain kind of bird. So it's definitely something that they just kind of have this culture that their staff kind of created, being interested in this and taking pride in it. And so when we approached them about the habitat thing, it was a no-brainer. They were super excited.
They were already qualified.
Yeah, they paid for these, by the way. They gave us the money to print our brochures, and I gave them a rough outline, and they had their graphics first to make it look really nice, and then paid for the printing. And, you know, we did recognize them as like at our celebration as a certified community. We had them come stand up with us, and you know, we recognized them in that way.
All right, I don't want to rain on the parade, but we try to get done by 7 at 7:09. We got a motion.
No second.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
I would like,
Yeah.
and can we nominate somebody else the next, if I had somebody in mind?
Yeah, if you,
Okay.
just let me know, Peter know.
We
us
can work on
know.
what that award will look like.
Yep.
All right.
I'll email something out.
Sounds good. Next meeting is February 14th. That'd be right. Valentine's Day.
Cool.
Second Thursday of the month. What's that?
Can I recommend that we move it?
I will be out of town, but y'all can go right ahead. It's your anniversary.
We have a group date night.
We do that every time.
Well, Aubrey, I'll point out, I was born on November 11th, so if you put the time frame together, that's got something to do.
Let me, I'll do this. So we've got can attend.
Can't attend that week or the next week.
Can
Next
attend.
week's spring break.
What about the 7th?
I'm sorry.
February 7th.
Just a week before.
Yeah, I'm the student. I'm easy.
Okay. Easy.
Okay, I had not paid attention, so what are we
So
doing?
February 14th is our next meeting, and we have a couple people who can't be there on the 14th.
Yeah, that's Valentine's Day.
Proposal to move it to the 7th.
Come on, guys.
7th works for me.
Yeah,
7th does not work for me.
does not work for you.
Okay, let me write.
Fever, any.
Any Thursday works for you? Okay.
Well, no,
7th doesn't work for me.
I have two
It's a
other
green
committees.
team meeting. It's a green team meeting. It doesn't really work for me either.
Which is over at 5:30.
Yeah, but
Well, it's never over at 5:30. Sorry. So Connie, me, and Terry have another meeting.
we
on
have
the
another
7th.
obligation.
Oh, okay. So we may just have to keep it on the 14th then.
Can we go one later or no?
Can we do the 21st?
That's spring break.
Okay.
For who?
No, not
For who?
February.
I don't remember seeing that on
I'm
the
sorry.
You're in
I'm
March.
Oh.
city holiday
Never mind.
calendar.
Never mind.
The 21st?
The 1st of February.
I can do
Third
the
thing is
21st. I cannot do the
environmental,
14th.
telecom board, and I've got 6 months more of that.
I have first and last Thursdays, and then this one.
So the 21st would work for you, because there's one more Thursday after that.
Well, the only two people that can't come on the 14th would be James.
Just me, I can't come.
You can't come the 14th.
I don't
Okay,
think
so there's
so.
4 of us.
I'm
Okay.
not positive,
The
but I
14th
don't
is-
think so.
Not looking
It's
good. The
really
21st
bad.
looks a lot better. We'd be excluding Aubrey.
Yeah, but you notice the last few meetings, I've been up and down.
You're right, yeah,
Okay.
you're ubiquitous.
Both of them.
He's a floater.
Okay, I'll talk to Sarah about what her schedule looks like as well, so we'll figure that out.
So tentatively right now for the 21st?
Tentatively for the 21st.
If y'all want these brochures before, when you on your way out after Peter adjourns us, don't forget to come grab these plant lists. They're really good.
Anything else? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.